Have you ever wondered what happens when we cross the line between life and death? What if someone came back with an urgent message about the future of humanity, including a war that has already begun, but no one sees it? In today's video, you will hear the impressive story of Emily Ray, a 17-year-old girl who died for a moment and returned with shocking visions about a spiritual and invisible Third World War that threatens to explode on the physical plane. Get ready for a transformative experience full of revelations that will shake everything you believe in. If this type of content awakens you, like it, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next real accounts of near-death experiences. And to increase our connection, comment below. From which city in the world are you watching this video? Let's map this network of awakened consciousnesses together. I was just an ordinary girl, 17 years old, waiting for the school bus on a cold November morning in Iowa. I was listening to music with my headphones on when everything went black. There was no pain, just a click, like a switch. When I opened my eyes, I was still there, but something had changed. Everything was frozen. The leaves on the trees stopped in midair. The people around me were as still as dolls, and the sound had disappeared. Even my breathing seemed to no longer exist. I looked up at the sky. It was cracked, like broken glass. Through these cracks, I began to be pulled upward, as if my body had no weight left. It was then that I realized I was dead. But what came next was not peace. It was something frighteningly urgent. As I was pulled through the cracked sky, a chill ran through something that was no longer my body. It was as if every piece of my consciousness was being pulled apart, turned over, examined. On the other side of the cracks, I found no light. At least, not right away. I floated down a dark hallway, where the walls seemed made of mourning. They pulsed with silent screams, broken memories, echoes of lives interrupted. With every step or thought, I don't know, I felt other presences, and they didn't want me to pass. I saw souls, trapped, like shadows stuck to the edges of the hallway. Some were crying, others just repeated phrases like a broken record. It was too fast. Nobody heard me. I didn't want to die like this. I wanted to run away, but I no longer had feet. I was being carried by something bigger than myself. At the end of the hallway, a door floated. It was made of light and darkness at the same time. It vibrated as if it were alive. As I approached, a voice, not coming from outside, but from within me, said, "You will see what is coming, because there is still time." The door opened by itself, and what I saw on the other side changed everything. I stepped through the door, and suddenly I was floating above the earth. But it wasn't the earth I knew. The planet seemed covered in a black web, like cracks of smoke spreading across the continents. It wasn't pollution. It was something spiritual. It was pain, despair, lies, fear. It was the accumulated weight of human unconsciousness. The atmosphere vibrated with a low bass sound that sounded like own planet screaming. Images began to appear before me like floating windows, each showing different parts of the world. And what I saw was terrifying. We governments falling apart, presidents signing papers in secret, then burning the documents. I saw laboratories hiding discoveries and scientists being silenced. I saw people in the streets, not protesting for ideologies but screaming for truth. It was as if the mask of civilization had been ripped off at once. And then the military movements began. Tanks crossing borders I recognized. I saw the face of the US president, but he was different, as if something was guiding him. I saw missiles being prepared, warplanes cutting through the night sky, ships positioned in the Pacific with flags of countries that I knew were rivals. That's when a battlefield appeared before me. But it wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Behind the soldiers walked creatures that seemed to be made of living shadow. Tall, faceless, with eyes like burning coals. They fed on anger, fear, ignorance. I felt my stomach, or what was left of it, turn, because these creatures were not from the war. They were the cause of it. And it was at that moment that I realized World War III has already begun. But it didn't start with bombs. It started inside people. As I watched that war unfold in the physical and spiritual world at the same time, I felt something pulling me upward, as if to say, that's not all. I was taken to an altitude no satellite could ever reach. There, the planet seemed small, but I could feel every emotion emanating from it. Fear, hatred, despair, but also faith. Faith stifled, hidden, but alive. That's when I saw it. Lights. Small at first, like shy fireflies, then stronger. They were people. But not with weapons or speeches. They were mothers praying alone in quiet kitchens, children in hospitals holding hands with strangers, young people in dark rooms, struggling with suicidal thoughts and winning, even when no one saw them. These lights began to connect, creating a kind of spiritual network that expanded, strengthened, disturbing the darkness that fed the chaos. The scene has changed. I saw one underground room somewhere in the world, where men in ties were looking at maps and screens. They were deciding the fate of millions. One of them hesitated. His hand was shaking. I heard his thoughts, as if he heard a voice that wasn't coming from there. A voice that said, "There is still time to stop." And in that moment I saw something impossible. One of the dark entities tried to approach him and was repelled by the light, not an external light. His. That hit me like a bolt of lightning in the soul. War is not inevitable, but the window to prevent it is closing. It was then that a being of light appeared before me. It wasn't the angel yet. It was something different. A figure made of pure energy, which changed shape. Man, woman, child. As if it were human consciousness itself awakens. She spoke directly to my being. "You will yet see what happens when hearts do not awaken in time," and showed me the possible end. The presence before me held no anger, no despair, but sadness. A sadness that pierced the soul. She reached out her hand, and as I touched it, I was thrown into a sequence of visions so vivid, it felt as if I was inside them, living each one. It was the future. A future in which no one woke up in time. The cities were silent, but not because of peace, but because of absence. I saw empty streets without children. I saw supermarkets locked up like tombs. I saw hospitals in ruins, where the only voices were machines blinking until they shut down for good. But it wasn't the end of humanity. It was the end of humanity as we know it. Nations had been divided not by territory but by survival standards. Some lived in cold, technological fortresses where human contact was minimal. Everything controlled, programmed, supervised. Most survived. On what was left, chaos, hunger, diseases that had not been seen for decades. I saw drones flying like metallic bees, identifying non-conforming people. I saw young people with chips implanted in their wrists, controlling what they could eat, where they could walk. I saw children growing up without knowing what it was like to play with other children. And the most disturbing, I saw closed churches, abandoned temples, and where there was once faith, now there was only silence. "This is the way if consciousness remains asleep," the presence said without moving its lips. "War will not come out of nowhere. It has already begun. In the heart of every being who chooses fear over love, indifference over compassion, power over truth." Then I saw something that made me scream even without a voice. A map, with a countdown. It was like a spiritual clock. With each falling number, a new flame of conflict was lit somewhere on the planet. Time was spiritual, but I felt that was very close. "There comes a moment when the line breaks," the presence said. "And when that happens, not even the angels can stop what is coming." That's when he appeared. The angel. The one who had eyes like the moving sky. The presence retreated, and he reached out to me again. "You've seen what happens when everything fails," he said. "Now you need to see What can happen if the light wins? As I touched the angel's hand, I was catapulted into another vision, just as intense as the last, but with a completely different vibe. It was like breathing for the first time after years of being underwater. I saw Earth again, but now there was something different. The dark smoke that had once enveloped the planet had dissipated over large areas. In its place, lines of light crossed the continents like shining rivers connecting people, ideas, purposes. Big cities were no longer marked by noise and rush. I saw parks where crowds meditated in silence, as if they had learned to hear something beyond the noise. I saw children teaching adults to feel again, with a wisdom that did not come from school but from the soul. Hospitals had been transformed into centers of integrative healing, where spirituality and science worked together. I saw doctors with hands surrounded by light, diagnosing with empathy, treating with awareness. The borders? They still existed on the maps, but not in the hearts. I saw refugees being welcomed with celebration, not afraid. I saw ex-presidents taking care of Hortus alongside ordinary people. I saw scientists who had helped build weapons were now developing technologies to purify oceans with the touch of their minds. And then something great happened. The entire sky began to vibrate, as if the entire universe was applauding. That's when the greater presence returned, the one who seemed to be the reflection of humanity's awakened consciousness. She was a giant now, bigger than the planet, her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of reverence. Humanity had chosen, not with words, but with deeds, and it had created a wave, a kind of mass spiritual rebirth. The war didn't happen, but not because there were no more conflicts, but because consciences no longer fed the same invisible monsters, the dark entities. They had lost their power. Without fear, without hate, they withered like shadows without light. The angel looked at me firmly and said, "That is the other way, but it requires choice, and that choice needs to start now." Everything inside me felt like it was on fire. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go back. I wanted to warn the world. But the angel stopped me. "You haven't seen it all yet, Emily. You still need to understand what's behind what's to come," and took me to the place where the Earth's plan is being written. The angel led me through a spiral of golden light that slowly swirled around us. It felt like crossing a sacred threshold, like entering the beating heart of the universe. When the light dissipated, we were inside a vast space with no ceiling, no walls, and yet, it was a room. In the center was a table made of pure time, not wood, not stone, but something that vibrated with memories and possibilities. Scattered upon it were living books, with pages that wrote and erased themselves as the energy around them changed. "What is this?" I asked, or maybe I just thought. "This is where destinies are sketched, not defined but dreamed. Here are the possibilities of Earth, shaped by human choices." I walked over and saw a book that was bigger than all the others. It was open to a page where the words seemed to burn. I saw dates, names of cities, words like global disruption, mass disclosure, remains leaders. I saw a line that led to something called convergence war. The word convergence seemed alive and pulsed with a dense red. But then something strange happened. Another line began to glow as if trying to form itself of its own free will. It wasn't red. It was blue gold, and it connected with words like collective awakening, silent alliance, inner revolution. It was like watching two scripts being written at the same time, one dark, one bright, but both real. "They coexist," said the angel, "but only one can prevail." That's when I saw the most unexpected thing. There was a blank page, floating outside the book, with nothing written on it. And yet, it called me with a force that surpassed all logic. "This page is now," said the angel. "The part that can still be written by those who are awakening." I approached her, and without understanding how, I saw words begin to appear on the blank page. They came from my own being. Phrases like, "I choose to see," "I choose to remember," "I choose not to feed the darkness." I felt such a strong emotion that I knelt down right there, on that floor made of eternity. Because for the first time I understood, the fate of the world is not written in stone. It is being written by us. Now. The angel touched the timetable with his fingertips. The room immediately transformed. The books disappeared like golden smoke, and in the center of the space appeared an object that made my soul tremble. A mirror. But it was no ordinary mirror. It floated in the air, tall as a door, and reflected something that it wasn't my physical face, and it was my naked essence, my spirit, my conscience without masks. I approached hesitantly, and what I saw took my breath away. I saw the light within me, the kindness I hid in shame, the love I suppressed out of fear, the times I was righteous, even when no one else saw it. But I also saw my shadows, my vanity disguised as insecurity, my contempt for those who thought differently, the way I ignored the pain of others because I was too busy with my own. And each of these things, light and darkness, took shape in the mirror. The light seemed to dance like floating crystals. The darkness, however, was dense, sticky, like smoke that wanted to stick to the soul. "It exists in everyone," the angel said with a gaze that pierced layers of my being, "but few have the courage to look." Then the mirror began to reflect other people, faces I knew, my mother, my brother, teachers, even classmates who had humiliated me, and behind each face, a reflection of the soul. I saw that everyone was carrying internal battles. Everyone. Even those who seemed strong, happy, mean, or cold. Everyone was fighting something invisible, and in some, the shadows had already taken over almost everything. It was at that moment that something broke inside me. The trial. It fell like a heavy cloak from my shoulders. For the first time, I understood what it meant to truly see someone. The angel placed his hand on the mirror. It dissolved like mist, and then he said, "Now you understand. The coming war is not just between countries, it is between what people choose to nurture within themselves. The Third World War has already begun, and it begins every day within each of us." I stood there, silent, feeling the weight and truth of those words, because now, more than ever, I knew the choice was not collective, it was individual, and it was urgent. The angel looked at me with something that seemed a mixture of reverence and urgency. With a slight gesture, he pointed upward, and the space around us fell away like sand blown away by the wind. Before I knew it, we were on a new plane. It was a suspended path between two worlds. On one side, the earth as it is, vibrant, chaotic, pulsating with life and illusion. On the other, a plane of pure intention, where forms seemed to be made of thought and light. And between these two worlds, there were beings walking. Souls, but not like ghosts or angels. They were young, lots of young people. I saw faces with acne, colored hair, torn clothes. I saw teenagers with sunken eyes from crying so much in secret. I saw girls with scars on their wrists, boys who had been abandoned, zombies of anxiety and guilt. But at the same time, they shone. Each of them carried a thread of light coming out of their chest, connected directly to the higher plane. I saw that despite all the chaos they faced on Earth, they were the first to awaken. They were the children of time, the catalysts. They were not forgotten, the angel said. They were prepared. They were born into the collapse not to suffer, but to remember. They walked as if they were carrying out silent missions. Some wrote, others drew. Some just listened. And there were those who wept silently, but even their tears brightened the path for those who came behind. It was then that I realized the new generation is being awakened from within. No dogmas, no religions, no gurus, just a longing for something that has no name but that burns deep in my chest. "These are the first soldiers of the New Age," said the angel, "and their weapons are not of iron. They are of conscience." I saw children having lucid dreams. I saw teenagers rejecting the inheritance of hate that their parents tried to pass on. I saw young people rejecting fame and appearance to seek silence and truth. And I saw an invisible war being fought every day within them, not between nations, but between what the world wants them to be and who their souls came to be. "They need to know they are not alone," the angel said. "They are the last line between the abyss and rebirth." I looked around and saw that the thread of light that connected my chest to the upper plane also shone. I was one of them, even scared, even confused. I also carried a spark. And then something tremendous began to happen. The spiritual sky opened. Thousands of other threads of light began to appear, like inverted lightning bolts, rising upward from the earth. An entire field of consciousness awakening in unison. And in that moment, I knew time was running out. The spiritual sky expanded as if breathing, and a vibration ran through everything around me. It was a silent, deep sound, like the beat of the universe itself. Each thread of light that emerged from the earth seemed like a plea, a reminder, a last call. The angel stood before me, but now he wasn't just a guide. It was as if he was the living echo of a decision the world needed to make. "We have reached the threshold," he said. "You have seen both paths, the fall and the awakening. Now you must understand what separates one from the other." He pointed down, and there was the earth, suspended between two futures. The scenes I had seen before, war, collapse, misery, were still there. But on the other side, the same earth shone with a light that seemed new, pure, as if it had been reborn. Between these two versions of the planet, there was a chasm, and over this abyss a narrow bridge, almost invisible. Every second, souls crossed. Some staggered, others ran with faith. But many fell, not out of malice, but out of fatigue, fear, and misinformation. It was the bridge of consciousness. That was when the angel touched my chest. And everything I had seen, the club, the books, the spiritual warfare, the awakened young people, came back in an instant like a flash inside me. And along with it came words engraved, not in the ear, but in the soul. "You will return, but with eyes that see the invisible. You will remember, and your memory will be the seed for others to remember too. Because the world will not be saved by prophets nor by machines, but by hearts that choose to love even when everything around them teaches them to hate." At that moment, I saw my body again. I was lying on the floor of the bus stop, my headphones still in my ears, my face pale. People were beginning to gather. Someone was shouting my name. Time, that time on earth, started again. Before being pulled back, the angel said the last sentence, the one that still burns like a hot iron inside me. "The Third World War will be spiritual before it is political, and only those who are awake will survive in spirit." And then I fell. I fell like someone diving back into the flesh, like someone waking up with a soundless scream. When I opened my eyes, the Iowa sky was gray, but it had never seemed so full of meaning. The cold was biting, but I was alive. And I knew I carried the vision, and it would never be forgotten. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.